Like, share, subscribe, hit the super chat. I am so sorry about that, you guys. As y'all know, South Florida is a beast right now. And I got caught up in work and and I'm just not leaving. Mr. Z did how many hours in 2 days? A lot. I did a double at both jobs, so it was I did overtime at both. Pretty much I did 10 hours of overtime at both jobs in the span of like 3 days or 2.5 days or something like that. It was ridiculous. So the fact that I'm standing, well, I'm not standing. The fact that I'm upright right now is a miracle. Um, so there's that. Okay, so enough about me. To the topic at hand. Once again, like, share, subscribe, hit the super chat on the way in. My apologies again for my supremely my tardiness, my me being so supremely late. And okay, so what's free? And this video, and I should have actually linked the videos below, is inspired by Game Changer, um, Jackie O, and um, and Bernard Riley. So this question of free and women, particularly black women, um, pretty much charging you to be in a relationship, and as Game Changer was, alluding to and actually saying, which is charging you more than you know the worth or the value of that relationship or their companionship, right? Or being delusional about what that should cost, right? That's actually where Mr. Z is coming from with this. Relationship being transactional, particularly in this society, in this environment, hyper capitalist society, that that's understandable. Neoliberalism, the fact that many people, particularly women, aren't actually questioning the economic environment and realities and what that means for them in their relationships, um, intimate relationships, and their intimacy or lack thereof. The fact that they're just living their life and floating through life without questioning any of these things and how it actually affects them is how we get to where we are now, right? So when Ms. Jackie responded to something Bernard said and said women want to be free, and I wish they would have went into that a bit more, because there's a lot to be said about that word free, right? And what it cost, right? So nothing wrong with being free. What's the cost of your freedom? I said this to the brother FD Signifier when he was on my stream, and there wasn't really any pushback, but we were in the midst of conversation, so he caught it, but the conversation was flowing. I don't know if he wanted to pause on that point. Men aren't going to pay you to be free, and they're not going to provide you security while you're free. In other words, you're actually asking a man to be your cleanup man or just your safety net in that regard. You don't want to use those words, then, ladies, particularly black women. You don't want to use those words. You may not want to think that way. You may not want to feel that way, but you are asking a man to be your cleanup man if you're demanding your autonomy and your freedom while he provides you security. In other words, I want to go out there and live my life and do my thing, and not hear any words of wisdom, or not have my coattail pulled, or not be, told, hey, I don't know if you want to do that, or just being told, yeah, we're not going to do that. I don't want any of that. As a matter of fact, I will not take any of that. But I do want the security that comes from being in an intimate relationship with a man, for straight people, with the heterosexual man. I want the security, the emotional security, the financial security, right? The physical security, the mental security. I want all of that, but I don't want the air quotes constraints that come with that. You're asking a man to then be your cleanup man. In other words, I want to freestyle. I want to do what I want to do, how I want to do it, when I want to do it. Nothing wrong with that. But I still want a man to be there for if and when all of this falls apart. Right? Don't tell me it was me. Don't tell me the decisions I made were wrong. Don't tell me the way I felt, the way I thought was wrong. Don't tell me just do, just clean this up, fix whatever I messed up. You know what the cost of freedom is? It's that feeling of constraint. Yes, ladies, ouch. Yes, yes, it hurts. I know it. It burns. It burns. Yes, I know. I know. Right? That feeling of being constrained and held back. That's the price. Right? For those of us that remember all the cartoons and the TV shows and movies that where the men would reference their new wife or they're about to get engaged or they're engaged, excuse me, and they're about to get married and they say, "Oh yeah, the old ball and chain," right? Why did he propose to the old ball and chain? Because that's the other side. Yeah, it's going to be somewhat constraining. Yeah, I'm no longer a bachelor, but at least in those times, I get the home cooked meal. I get steady vagina. I'm probably going to live longer. I'm going to have an intact nuclear family, children in wedlock. So the trade off of my freedom and me being a bachelor is all these other things, many things that are not, I can't put a dollar value to, right? Many things I can't put a dollar value to, things that might not be tangible, right? That was the trade-off. What 21st century women are saying, or at least what it seems like they're saying from a heterosexual man's point of view is, no, I still want to live and feel like I'm single and free while having the occasional penis on the side in this supposed nuclear relationship thing. But I don't want to feel any of the constraints of someone saying, yeah, you got to consider more than yourself. Right? You got to consider more than yourself. It's more than just you and your feelings and your fleeting feelings. You know? And this is the fault of many in this society. The overall society, these individual women and their mothers and aunts and grandmas. Because you have to ask yourself, who is telling the women what the cost of this is? Just like the conversation we have often about education and wealth and income in debt and the time spent in college and university and what that may mean for your intimate relationships. The question is, who is talking to the women about this? No one. That's the answer. No one. Not mom, not female professor, not female dean, not the television shows, not the movies. No one. You know who's talking to them about that? YouTube content creators like Chrissy and Yanni and Paris. And they're still not actually speaking to these women about this. They're not actually, they're just helping them get into their echo chambers and regurgitate the same foolishness to each other. They're not actually attempting to help them work through what this looks like, what it looks like to be a 32-year-old with a master's degree, no man, no relationship, and some really bad habits. An eating disorder, right? Maybe a little too sassy, maybe a little too mean, maybe a little too catty and gossipy, right? They don't actually talk to those women about, or maybe a bit too delusional, a whole lot of delusional. These particular content creators don't help these women work through that. No, they actually instigate it and encourage it even more. Right? So the question is, what does free cost? What's the cost of freedom? Of your liberties? Mr. Z is not about telling anyone, particularly women, that you need to be with a man, that we're going to define you by your connections to a man. Okay, no, you don't. That we don't know. We no longer live in that world. Fine, right? We no longer live in that world. Cool. But on the other side of that is you being single. Or you can always, and the thing is, you can always, ladies, end up with a man, as Game Changer was speaking about. But Game Changer says, you can always be a woman with a man that's more handsome than you are pretty, which is hysterical. But in a way, you can be the breadwinner. But and this is the fault of feminism. Once again, actually thinking and believing, and most of them didn't. Some of the designers of this, that women would be okay with being the primary breadwinner. Obviously not. And we'll pause right here by mentioning Mr. Richard Reeves, who gave a story of him speaking to a friend, right? Who gave a story of him speaking to a friend and a female friend, and the female friend essentially said, it's a proxy. So much of this conversation, women see it as a proxy for, do you got your ish together, having a college degree, because he was lamenting the fact that women don't seem to be signing up for their end of the bargain of, okay, we want these positions and these jobs and these so and so, but we also want men that are on our level or above. And this lady came up with the BS excuse, and I wish I would have been there, right? Well, no, we see it as a proxy for if you had your ish together. No, you want both, and you want to be a feminist while enjoying the boons of patriarchy at the same time. Leave it to a woman to try to twist herself into pretzels to justify the unjustifiable, especially a white woman, right? And yes, I said it. Leave it to a white woman to say, well, no, it's not that. It's not that I want feminism and patriarchy at the same time. Yawn. It's not that I'm a whole hypocrite. It's not that I'm trying to reconcile my brand of feminism with also having men still do what traditional men did for less of a cost. Right? And the reason why I brought this up in this conversation is, once again, to speak of the cost of freedom. What is the cost, ladies? Right? What is the cost of your education outside of just time? Right? How does it look like when you start to view men a certain way because you have a certain level of education, you have a certain level of status in your immediate society and immediate community, and maybe in your work endeavors you have a certain level of society for your career. Excuse me, a certain level in your career, right? You're seen as somebody notable in your career field. What does that then mean in how you view men and relationships, intimate relationships with men, right? So now we're dealing with the cost of this, and yet once again, this is why I brought up certain content creators. Who is speaking to the women about this? But particularly the young women, those that supposedly say or think or feel that one day they do want to be married to a man and they do want to have children. The trade-off, right? The trade-off that maybe you can't be autonomous and be in a relationship. Maybe that's a pipe dream, right? Maybe that's a pipe dream. Maybe that's delusional. Maybe the men that would actually sign up for that, you're probably going to cheat on them because you don't actually respect them. or they're men in compromised positions, probably compromised positions financially, right? It's something that Tracy Ellis Ross has said before, and she's not the only one, right? She isn't the only one. I've heard this from multiple people, but she's the most notable person that essentially says what they're looking for just may not be out there yet, right? It just may not be out there. The particular relationship model that they're looking for, it just may not be a thing as of right now. Maybe men aren't on that particular wavelength mentally and emotionally yet. So they're looking for something a bit experimental, right? Okay, granted, then be single and be happy with it. But I don't know how happy you are being single with being a 50-plus-year-old posting thirst trap pictures, right? How happy are you actually being single? Especially when you went on a tour speaking about your book and you kind of mentioned how being single is and not having children and never being married, how that affects you, right? And y'all give me a second. I'm gonna be in a bit of a dead zone for a couple minutes. So y'all y'all give me 1 second. I'm gonna mute up for a second and I will be back with you guys. Y'all talk amongst yourselves. I'll be back with you in 1 minute. All right, everybody. I'm back, y'all. I'm back. I'm back. Mr. Z is back. Hopefully, you guys can hear me. I don't know. Still somewhat in that dead zone. Yes, I ordered my breakfast already. Yes, I got it already. And thank you, Oliver the Gray, for the super sticker. And Oliver the Gray has another comment after the super sticker, and he says, "Mentally disturbed person exclaims they are happy. You won't say I believe you. You simply say okay. Their actions show otherwise." Yes, exactly, exactly. But we're told, not to doubt women and not to question whether, especially when it comes to their intimate realm, sex, of conversation. We're told not to question them when they say these things, when they exclaim, I'm happy, or I'm happy being single, or I'm content, and we always wait until when they're in a relationship, if they ever get into a relationship, intimate relationship, and then they say otherwise, right? And then they tell you, yeah, I was lying, right? Like Lonnie Love did when she ended up with the white dude. How she started weeping and saying, it was so lonely, and it's so good when you walk home and so somebody's there to greet you and somebody's there to pick you up from the airport. Yeah, but when you were single, you were fronting like you were happy, though. You even saw this with Uchechi when she told us that she was engaged from the grapevine, right? All that crap you talking about men, and you were glowing for at least that 2 seconds. Now, did that actually matriculate into a marriage? Ooh, I don't know. Yes, we've seen this multiple times, particularly amongst women, particularly amongst black women, right? We even saw this with Jeannie Mai, right? Jeezy's wife. She don't want to have kids. She don't care for having kids. She get with Jeezy. She gets pregnant, and she's still somewhat cop and please for the other women that claim they don't want to have kids and they don't care about children. She still got to protect the overall sisterhood. Maybe not the black sisterhood, but she got to protect the overall sisterhood and say, well, there are other women that mean it. Yeah, we know, but why are you saying that though? Right? So yes, Oliver the Great, you are 100% correct. The people that say these things, particularly women, and then we got to pretend like we believe them until they actually admit to us that they were BSing and they were doing it to protect their own ego or their own pride. Right? When they finally tell us the truth, they're gonna be like, "Oh, really? You were? Oh, okay, I get it. You didn't really mean what you were saying before. Oh, I believed you." When we know we didn't believe them. Right? So we see. So and there might be part two to this a little bit later on today. But Game Changer was on his channel, the video that inspired Bernard Riley to speak about this. Game Changer, in the beginning part of his video, did a review of a more seasoned woman, we'll say, um, and she was speaking about, and I'm gonna put the links in the description after the video, so after this live, so y'all have your reference points. Where she was speaking about being in relationships or lack thereof, dating as a more seasoned individual, um, and going on these trips, and where are the men, and I'm four wheeling, or in Egypt, and where are the men, and y'all just want to sit down and drink beer. And I'm guessing she's speaking about the men around her age, right? And Game Changer goes on to say, yeah, because what we define as fun is different, right? What we define as fun is different. You are in Singapore doing a live stream, right? Exactly. You are in Singapore doing a live stream. If we were in Singapore as a more seasoned individual, we would be chasing after younger women, like, you should do, maybe, possibly, if you're a single person and you have no attachments, particularly as a seasoned individual. But you are making a video chastising men for not moving, thinking, and feeling the way you think, move, and feel about vacation and how they spend their money and their time. Once again, their money and their time. So because they don't value what you value, that you discount what they value, right? Because they do not value what you value, you discount it. because they don't want to spend their time going overseas, spending a whole lot of money, and just to come back and brag about it and throw it in other people's faces, you devalue what they value because they would much rather go spend a few $1,000s on a football game. You devalue what they value, right? Huh. Interesting. As Game Changer said, but that's the cost of free. No one can tell you what to do, even at an older, more advanced age. And and this is why I speak about exercising those relationship muscles, because it matters. And it begins to atrophy, and you do become jaded. You do become jaded, and you do not learn maybe how to hold certain things back, how not to say, or say things in a different way, phrase things in a different way. You're stuck in your ways. There's nothing wrong with that, except maybe the opposite sex doesn't appreciate who you are and how you are. And they don't have to, by the way. I want to keep Oliver DeGray's comment up a little bit. He paid, right? Yeah, the cost, right? So it was very interesting to hear Miss Jackie bring up free. They want to be free, and 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 it is this concept also that comes from many women, particularly black women, in America, that relationships are oppressive, not even constraining, but oppressive. This is also, I would argue, much of the reason why you have this idea of they got to be with the baller dude. Because if I'm going to be in prison anyway, right? If you see relationships as oppressive, if you see being with a heterosexual man as inherently oppressive, right? Which, by the way, this is like 100% feminism, actually leaning into radical feminism. This is 100% a radical feminist ideology, that relationships with men is oppressive, right? And this is why you see oftentimes these women, they put the bar for being in intimate relationships with men, right? I didn't say having sex with men. I'm saying being in intimate relationships with men. That's why they put the bar to the ceiling, right? No man is perfect, but if I have to be with one of you XY chromosome people, then you have to look like this and be this tall and have this much money and have this much status and comport yourself like this. By the way, nothing wrong with that, but have fun finding that, right? Nothing wrong with that, but have fun finding that, right? So the cost of freedom in heterosexual relationships is you being single, possibly indefinitely or for prolonged periods of time. The cost of your freedom is what Chrissy is not doing with her polygyny and polyamory, whichever one she said. That's the cost of your freedom. You can be like Yanny. You can be like Yanny and lock your vagina up and throw away the key. Nothing wrong with that, and I'm not making fun of her for that, by the way. Which is go celibate, right? You can do that. Shout out to her subscribers that were all in her comments talking about being celibate for 2 and 5 and 10 and 15 and 17 and 20 years, right? You can do that. Or you can do like Chrissy and be polygynous and, polyamorous. The cost of your freedom is also you can be like Ostefko, right? And speak about wanting to be in a relationship, but then also lament when you see children and a father walking through a hallway at a hotel that you're staying in. That's another cost of freedom. Another cost of freedom is being Tracy Ellis Ross, right? That's a cost of freedom, which is a person that mother was married how many times, had how many children from how many men, and is world famous, and you're her most famous child, and you can't get or keep a man. Well, you could get a man, even at your advanced age. Keeping one, on the other hand, is a whole different conversation. That's another cost of freedom. That is the other cost of freedom. So, ladies, yes, you can be free. Yes, you can be autonomous. Yes, you can practice agency undisturbed, right? All of that, right? You can do that. But the cost is you being single because no 10 toes down heterosexual man, not even just black man, no man is going to pay for your freedom with his security, with him providing you security. It doesn't work that way. You want to be autonomous, you can be autonomous, but what won't be provided for you is this security, right? So forget having an issue with 50-50. How about you just do your whole 100 thing over there without anything? So zilch, nada, zero from men, right? And Trelson, don't forget about Niecy Nash. Well, Niecy Nash is in a same-sex loving situation last time we checked, right? So she's not with a man, and that's cool. Whatever the rules are over there in the Rainbow Coalition side of the game, is their thing. But at least over here in the heterosexual world, particularly in the black world, there's a cost. There's a cost. If you want some type of societal or community protection from men, anytime. And it is funny because people that pay their own bills, we're talking about women here, particularly black women, they pay their own bills. They don't want to be in a relationship with a man where they pay their own bills still. And he still provides some type of something, right? Let's be very clear. Most of these relationships still ain't 50-50. 60-40, 70-30, maybe 80-20, maybe if the man earns enough, 100% of the finances is on him, right? But women are saying, black women in particular, are saying that if you're not providing at least, and let's be honest, they really want 100% of you providing the finances, but if you're not providing at least 80-20, then what's the point? And there's nothing wrong with that. But take these years and maybe decade of being single. How about that? Y'all realize that we are listening to certain content creators, female content creators, who, as long as you've known them, they've never been in a relationship, right? As long as you've known them, they've never been in a relationship. And it's not like they're trying to advance women. No, they're chastising men all day, every day, and they've never been in a relationship. Then there's others that straight up tell you that the men in their lives are doing air quotes what they're supposed to do or doing right by them, and yet men still ain't ish. Shout out to Chrissy. You're not in a relationship, but the men that are in your life, your brother, your uncle, your father, support you and defend you, and yet you want some magical man that you're not in a relationship with, that doesn't know you, that doesn't owe you, to still do for you. Because men are still supposed to provide the safety net to women that told you, I still want to be free and autonomous. I said it to FD signifier, I meant it. And this is where the conservatives are right. Both white and black conservatives are right. Many of these women, of these feminists, of these women right activists want men to still provide a safety net and a tent to keep them outside of the rain. Don't shelter me from the rain and the thunderstorm and save me. That's what the tent is for, right? And the net is to catch me when I mess up my own life, but I still want to be free under that tent. We will not provide the security for your autonomy, for your freedom. And it's a very perverse concept of freedom, negative liberty, right? It's a very perverse concept of freedom, right? And Mr. Shug to you says, not in relationships, but are they really single? Some are, some really are. And when we say single, are they in a situationship? Do they have F buddies? Maybe, but Chrissy straight up told you what that was last year. Last year, maybe a little bit earlier, that she's out here in the polygamous world, doing her thing. Now, last time we checked, she was dating some white dude, but hey, Yanni told you she's celibate right now. Now she may be dating someone that's okay with waiting for sex until marriage, possibly, or until she's, comfortable already, possibly, right? So that's a thing, right? So a couple of these people are truly single. Now, does that mean they're not having sex? Some of them are and some of them aren't. But there's a cost to freedom, ladies. And men know it too. Go ask the soldiers. Go ask all the military men and even women. Fine, ask the women in the military. There's a cost to freedom, right? And let's get right to it. All this attempt at finagling the men to provide the security while not having a say so in your life and in your decisions, it's not gonna happen. Dear women, women in general, black women specifically, 50 plus years, y'all ain't get it yet. You want to know why? Because you're never going to get it. Men are not going to provide you no security and not have no say so. That it doesn't work that way, and nor will it ever. And I actually consider what you're asking. I want to live with you. I want you to pay the bills, the majority of the bills, if not all the bills. I want you to protect me if something go bump in the night. I want you to do for us and our children, right? But I want to come in and out this house how I please without even referring to you, without just walking out the door. Hey, where your mom go? I don't know, Dad. Right? I want to go in and out how I want, do what I want, how I want, when I want, where I want. But you still got to provide this shit. You still got to parachute in to any situation I might find myself in, right? Like a superhero. Right? And yeah, Spain Man, we said this before. Yeah, I remember you saying this before. And Spain Man says, in my last apartment stay, I noticed that there were a few decent looking black women that looked like they never had men around. Some are chronically single. And that's the thing. The here's the catch. A lot of these women have no one. They're not even in some same-sex loving situation. They have no one. And yet they condescend down to men, right? They have no one. And if anything, every once in a while, they'll every couple years, they'll meet somebody, they'll do a little something with that person for 3 months, 6 months, and then they're back to being single for 2, 3 years, 4 years, right? As I said when I reviewed the video with Yanni speaking about, um, you know, being celibate, or not the video, where the comment she posted about being celibate. As I said on that, if you're telling me you haven't had sex and you're being honest, we're assuming that this is true, right? If you're being honest and you haven't been in any situation for 5 years, 10 years, then that means that you haven't been in a relationship, most likely, because there's no way a heterosexual man that has had sex is going to be with you for 6 and 9 months with no sex. In a year, in 5 years, well, first of all, y'all would have been married by that time, most likely. But 2, 3, 4 years, no sex, yeah, no. So that means you haven't been in a relationship, right? Like I said, it's more about the intimacy and exercising those relationship muscles than it is just about the physical act of sex. Once again, that's the cost to you want the freedom, you right? Your autonomy, your feeling of that liberty to do what you want, how you want it, right? With constraints, obviously, we're assuming you're following the law, but still, right? And so that once again, that's why I make the argument that is much of the reason why certain women, particularly black women, speak about these six-figure men and millionaires and baller lifestyle, because what they do see relationships, intimate relationships, and marriage with men as oppressive. So they need baller guys. So if I'm gonna give up my freedom, I'm gonna give it up to the highest bidder. Cool, right? And KW Don says a viral clip of a black woman wanting her husband to buy her a house with no financial support from her, but still wants her name on the deed. She just wants to tell other people that her hubby bought her a house. Bro, I keep on referencing this over and over again. When what's her name was with Quavo, right? When Sweetie was with Quavo, if your man ain't buying you a Birkin, essentially she's saying, if your man ain't balling out of control and doing like this for you, then why are you even with him? And that's pretty much what she said, right? That's pretty much what she said, excuse me, right? If your man ain't buying you if your man ain't balling out of control, then what are you doing actually? Translation, why did you give up your freedom for whatever that is that you have going over there, and not to the dude that's bidding at the highest bidder? And by the way, I mean, if you're courting and you're dating, in a weird way, that is what we're doing. We are doing that, and finances plays a lot into that. Mr. Z is not dumb. I'm not naive. We're not, going to be children with this. At the same time, if we're bidding to the highest bidder financially, ladies, then have fun. If you're going to turn this into purely transactional, financially transactional, or it's primarily financially transactional, and then everything else comes after, and a distant second and third and fourth and fifth. Okay, there's a price to that, or there's a cost to that, better yet, right? There's a cost to that. For you to want your man, right, to get you up. Let's see this again. No financial support from her, but still wants her name on the deed. Think about that. No financial support, but you still want your name on the deed so you can brag. We have spent a nice chunk of time over the past century, but definitely over the past 60 or so years, going through men's pathology, going through and speaking about men. Why do y'all do this? Why do y'all do that? Why do you think like this? Why do you move like that? And critiquing and just, right, pestering men about every decision they make, and very overtly too, being very confrontational, right, about it, right? Actually being very antagonizing about why men do and think and feel and move the way they do. Your daughters, on the other hand, the women, on the other hand, not so much. And now we're attempting to give them the space to reconcile their concepts of freedom, their concepts of their own femininity, their concepts of feminism with the parts of patriarchy they actually want to keep. This is what FD signifier comes in. No, Mr. FD signifier, we will not provide them any chivalry, none, zero, zilch, nada. None. As long as you don't speak to your daughters and to the women about the other side, what they contribute to that chivalry fund. Right? The patriarchy without the patriarchs is not going to be a thing. Right? We have given the women in the 21st century, well, the late 20th century leading into the 21st century and the early part of the 21st century, a lot of time to reconcile patriarchy with feminism. And let's be very clear, that is what they're attempting to do. Pick and choose which parts of which they want. And it's all the positives of both particularly ideologies, with none of the air quotes drawbacks and negatives from either. This is where their freedom and their autonomy with your security comes in. This is where Tracy Ellis Ross comes in, right? And the way she's speaking about this kind of, she might be outside of the norm, and there really might not be a type of thing that what she's looking for may not exist yet in this, you know. Right? And on that note, everyone, you know, the cost of freedom, everyone. What's free? Right? What's free? And is it free to you because somebody else paid the cost? And who's supposed to pay the cost? And when they pay it, how do you show your gratitude? See, for a kid, a whole lot is free because mom and dad are paying the cost. Auntie and uncles and grandma and grandpas are paying the cost. Depending on the age gap, older siblings are paying the cost. So for you, it's free. All you know is as you're walking out of the store, you get handed the candy. That's all you know. You get handed the toy. That's all you know, right? You don't know how much that gas costs for mom and dad to get you from point A to point B. You didn't even look at the pump when they were pumping. No, you don't care. You were flipping through your phone because for you the phone was free too, right? We can also speak about Chrissy say, well, essentially, black men ain't ish until they build Wakanda. That sounds like because you really want to be the white woman sitting under the porch, excuse me, drinking your lemonade that was created by slaves. I just want to make sure that you remember that part, Chrissy. You know, black people that looked like you, Chrissy, provided those white women that were sitting on the porch with the lemonade. I just want to make sure that we remember that. I want to know who's supposed to be your slave, black men. But yeah. So Chrissy just wants to sit on the porch as black men go grape, pillage, conquer, destroy the planet to put black women like her as the top 20% woman. Right? Nah, eh. Right? So it's easy to tell somebody to go, they ain't ish until they build Wakanda because you think you're just going to be sitting there twiddling your thumbs, right? And cheating on him with the pool guy. While some slave, probably a young black man who you're also probably piping on the low, provides you with the lemonade as you sit on the porch watching your husband and watching other men build Wakanda, black men build Wakanda. It just ain't a movie, bro. So, ladies, y'all are living the free life. You wanted free, you got it. You know. And we'll pause right here for now. Probably come back with a part two, right? Exactly. Thank you, Trell. And we'll end out with Trell's comment. And Trell says she wants to be Gucci booted. Shout out to Bill Burr. Essentially, she wants to be Gucci booted. I don't know if we're in the place anymore where women of color are questioning white femininity and white feminism. They talk a lot of good game. They talk a good game, right? But how many of them are actually questioning the what they're asking for, air quotes, with this feminism? Do you really want it? Or are you jealous that white women look at least like they found a way to reconcile feminism with patriarchy? By the way, they didn't really do it either. Check their divorce rate. Check their skyrocketing birth out of wedlock rate. They didn't do it either. But on that note, Mr. Zia, pause right here, right? And hopefully we'll come back with a part two of this or just another conversation. I know you guys haven't really heard from me too much over the past couple weeks. I've been slowing down a little bit. Um, excuse me, life's been pretty crazy over the past couple weeks. So as I said, like by the end of this week, let's put it this way. By Saturday night, I probably would have put in 93 to 95 hours of work between both jobs. Something like that. Maybe not like 92 to 95 hours. So that's why you guys haven't heard from me so much earlier this week. Or exiting last week and coming into this week. So yeah. Oh, Spain man said what happened with the towing issue. I got the car out. Oh yeah, we fixed that. We fixed that within a couple hours. Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. And thank God, actually. So and we'll end out on this, I guess. You know, sometimes it looks like a curse, but it's really a blessing. So lucky for me, when I picked up my daily from the mechanic, I literally just turned around and dropped the Z off, because the Z, 30-year-old plus sports car, so y'all know how that go. Needs a new radiator. Um, yeah, and it just needed a little bit of work to it. So lucky for me, the Z was at the mechanic shop, because if they would have picked up the Z out, I would have been county bound. Let's just put it that way. It would have been a whole different situation, right? Because there's no way the tow truck that they were using. There's no way it would have picked up my car without damaging the front end, right? There's no way they would have picked up my car without damaging it, right? So thank God that yeah, thank God for that. So if I'm not mistaken, at least I don't know how true this is, but I've heard that tow trucks aren't like the ones that come and just grab your car if you're in the wrong place or whatever. They're not liable for any damages. So yeah, whew. At least in Florida, right, or at least in the counties that I've lived in Florida. So like I'm not 100% sure of that, but I've heard it before. So I could just imagine my reaction, if you know. So anyway, yeah, but the car, yeah, I got the car from the yeah. I got from the car from the tow yard, like literally. I was when I was speaking to you guys, I got the car back from it. I was in the car already. I was driving back in the car. So yeah, Anubis, and that's the question, right? And Anubis says, so will women mating habits bring America to its knees? I don't think that. I think I don't want to be too hyperbolic. I mean, it's not 100% outside of the realm of possibility if you de-incentivize the men, the everyday man, because they don't have access to the vagina, and to women and to nuclear situations. So I'm not gonna say it's completely out of the realm of possibility, but I don't necessarily see it yet. And even Richard Reeves has conceded that porn has helped a lot in kind of your cell phone and video games and all this other things have helped a lot, right? To kind of mitigate the angst from men, particularly young men, from not being in situations with women, right? So yeah. But I will say young people not doing social math, particularly women, young women not doing the social math and not, like I said, knowing the cost of these things, particularly what they consider air quotes free. I think that may lead to a major, situation in this society because no one's telling them. And somebody correct me if I'm wrong. Any women that might be here, correct me if I'm wrong. If any of your female professors, if you took any feminist classes or feminist theory or whatever, if anyone told you what this cost, anyone, even let's take it outside of academia, your mothers, anyone you follow on YouTube or Twitter or any type of social media sites, has anyone really sat down and gave you the price, right, the cost, right, of you know going to school for a long time and your career path and what that might mean for your intimate life and just the cost of just living as a woman in the 21st century and attempting to achieve certain things, what that may cost in your intimate lives with men, especially if you are upwardly mobile as a woman and then you're looking for a man that's also upwardly mobile, whether white, black, Latino, or otherwise, right? And what does it mean to be a woman that's, particularly a black woman that's a $80,000 a year earner plus, right? What does that then mean for your dating life? And once again, because I know there's an increasing amount of women that say they're not loyal to black men, so they don't care to be with black men specifically. So that's why I'm saying men in general. And the reason there's another reason why I'm saying that is to say there is something to be said about upperly mobile black women who are also not in relationship with even non-black men, right? And I'm arguing that you, even for swirlers and divestors, they too haven't reconciled the cost of their concept of freedom. That's why I'm saying no man is signing up for that. It's not just a black men can't afford it and they won't sign up for it, even if they do, even if they can't afford it. What I'm saying is no man is going to provide you that security while you want to be this particular brand of free, right? Goddamn, I see IP13. I literally was about to close out. I'm literally about to close out. Thank you, thank you for the super chat, right? And I have stuff to do. I should have been somewhere like 10 minutes ago, but I'm running late, and as Mr. Z does. And IP13 says finally caught a Z live. Bonjour, good morning, sir. Good morning, bonjour. And we say bonjour, right? Um, that's how we say it in Creole, bonjour. But yeah, and I've heard multiple people in with the English accent say it and say bonjour, but we say bonjour, and I don't even know if we're pronouncing it correctly, or if I've only heard it as bonjour and bonjour, but I've never heard bonjour outside of like an American context, right? So yeah, yes. So yes, everybody. You know what? Because because I see IP13 put the money on the table, I will make sure to come back this afternoon and either continue this conversation or talk about something similar to this, right? Trail, I'm gonna steal that. Good one, Trail. Exactly. Running late? No, just advancing slowly. I'm stealing that. That's a good one. That's a good. You see, talk about euphemisms. You see, that's that statement right there, right? Talk about softer language, right? And on that note, everyone, we'll pause right here. I see IP13, so I will let's shoot for around 2-ish for me to cut 2-ish in the afternoon Eastern time, and I will either continue this conversation or start off with this conversation and kind of advance into something else that's somewhat related to this, because I want to lean more into the 50-50 conversation that I kind of touched on a little bit, what they also covered on Bernard Riley. And also let me finish up listening to Game Changer. Shout out to Game Changer. Like I said, I'm gonna link his video in the description. I'm gonna link Bernard's video in the description. I might actually tag them in the title also. So yeah, so let's do that, because they spoke about the 50-50 relationship thing, and I just don't know how this is supposed to work in this society. I think, like I said, we all got this money thing all type of messed up, and this kind of like provider thing all type of messed up, particularly right now, right? And Vince Lindsley says, "Hope you picked up some gas, Mr. Z." Yes, I did, and my tank is overfull. I got super lucky because a coworker and my one of my supervisors, my coworker told me where there was a gas station I could go, and my supervisor let me go put gas. Shout out to them. Thank you very much. And I've been driving for like not fully 2 days, obviously, but like I've driven for 2 days, and my tank literally hasn't dropped down from the full mark yet. So there's that. But let me get out of here, you guys. I really got something to do. So outros, love, peace, and chicken grease. I will pause right here. Y'all go check out other Manosphere content, other non-Manosphere content, for the love of God, right? Other non-Manosphere content, so that y'all can understand what's going on in the world and don't sound like some of these people that don't understand what the cost of freedom is, and that don't understand why people are doing like 70-30 relationships financially, or 50-50 or 60-40, right? These people are just, out here, whatever. Anyway. Oh, thank you. First time listener. What's going on? And I'm gonna guess your name is Gisanity? Gisanity? We're gonna say that. Okay. Yeah. Spell it out, Mr. Z. Syllable by syllable, sir. And on that note, we'll end it out here. Y'all have a great rest of y'all day. Mr. Z should be back, like I said, 2-ish Eastern time. 2-ish. And yeah, we'll continue the conversation. All right, everybody, have a great rest of your day. And shout out for to ICIP13, and we'll just leave his comment up, and we'll end that out with his comment being up there, and we'll read it one more time. And he said, finally caught Z live. Bonjour. Okay, all right, everybody, y'all have a great rest of y'all day. Mr. Z out.